it is. Well, Saturday morning. You know what that means. Time to put the clutch in the wrecker. So I just got done repairing the clutch fork. You can see, remember it had two real deep grooves where the throwout bearing had destroyed the fork. Now somebody's probably going to ask me, why did I repair that clutch fork? Yes, they make new ones, but they're made in Taiwan, made in China. And the last time I used one on a square body Chevy, I had nothing but problems. So yeah, I probably could find a GM one, and I probably have one here. In fact, I know I have one here. It's just, where is it? So for the time, it just took me 20 minutes, if that, not even that, to repair it. And all I did was I welded up the grooves, and then I just took my time and cleaned them up with a biscuit tool, and it's repaired, it's fixed. I'd much rather keep the original GM clutch fork than some Taiwanese piece of garbage that's going to fight me. Like I said, the last one that I used a long time ago, because I haven't put a clutch in a square body Chevy in, oh my God, probably 15 years. The last one I used, we got it all together, and this thing just, it was, the pedal felt weird, and we constantly were adjusting it. And what actually had happened was, because it was a Taiwanese one, it was a Chinese piece of garbage, it actually was bending. So over time, it actually bent the clutch fork. It took me a long time to figure out what was going on. I mean, we thought we had all kinds of other weird problems, and it actually ended up being the cheap aftermarket clutch fork. Ended up taking it apart, found a good used one, put it in, and never had a problem with it after that. But that's why I repaired the GM one. So now I got my bell housing about as clean as you're going to get 30-year-old greasy truck bell housing in a truck. I like to clean up everything as much as I can. I've said this 100 times, if not 1,000 times. Clean parts equals a clean job, which equals probably no problems down the road if you take your time to clean everything. Now, another thing a lot of guys won't realize is that clutch fork rides on this ball. Okay, and this ball is in pretty good shape. But a lot of times those balls, they'll be worn, and that can give you some issues too. Now, you want to put a good grease on that ball as well, and also where my Z-bar is, because this truck does not have a hydraulic clutch. So my Z-bar actually rides on here. And if you saw me kind of fighting the bell housing out of the truck in the last video, that was because the clutch Z-bar was still hooked to it. You could actually turn them and pull them apart, and I'll put it back together the same way. Most of those Z-bars have a grease fitting in them. I don't know if this one does. I'll have to look, but either which way, I will be putting some grease on or inside of the Z-bar. I'll put some grease on there, and I'll put a good quality grease on the pivot point as well. So with that being said, you also want to do on your new clutch, this is our new clutch, you want to put some lubricant right here where my finger's going in and out. Don't go crazy, don't go globbing it up, but you know, make sure you put some kind of lubricant on there. I need to crawl under the truck now and take some emery cloth to the snout where the release bearing actually slides. Clean that up, make sure that this goes back and forth nice and freely. And again, you want to put some kind of lube on there as well. They give you some in the clutch kit. I'll probably just go to my go-to, which is just some So-Glide. That stuff works really well. I'll just probably use that. I've been using that for years with no problem. This is a diaphragm clutch. And I'm just putting the standard clutch back in the truck. And I'm using a diaphragm clutch and not a 3-finger clutch. And what do I mean by 3-finger is, instead of have these bunch of fingers, there's just 3 fingers. The reason I'm using this clutch is this truck does not see the highway. This truck stays around here at the shop. We use it to push cars in and out. We use it to pick stuff up. We use it like a crane. So there's a lot of times where I'm just inching around the yard. So my foot is constantly in and out of the clutch because I'm moving the truck just a few feet back and forth, you know, jockeying stuff around. These clutches are a lot softer to push in and out versus a 3-finger one. A 3-finger one's going to be a little harder, so your foot's going to get tired. We're not really dragging anything. We're not really towing anything. We're not, going crazy where I need that clamping force to be like a race clutch or super heavy duty, because we're not doing that kind of work with this truck. Now, if it was a truck that I was going to be towing cars with on a regular, I would have probably put the other clutch in because the clamping force is that much tighter than one of these guys. And there's probably guys all over the internet going to say other things, and you know what? I really don't care. I've been putting clutches in trucks since I was probably 13 years old. This one will be a lot easier on my leg and my knees. I'm 51 years old. They're starting to get a little tired. So look, let me crawl under this thing. I got a lot of cleanup work to do still. I'm taking the time on this truck. All these 30 series Chevys. Let me crawl down here. Let me spin you around to be a little easier. How's that? All 30 series Chevys have, you see that plate right there? There's an extra plate bolted to the bottom of the frame rail. All your 30 series two-wheel drive Chevys have. Now, I removed the plate off of this one, and the reason I did that is it had a lot of what I call rust jacketing, and that's where rust builds up between here and the plate, and it starts to split. So what I want to do is I want to clean the bottom of these rails up, get all the loose rust off. I'll probably remove the plate on that one as well. I'm going to paint both sides of these, but I want to straighten the plate out. Let me spin over here to this other Chevy, which is right next to me. And you can see how the plate looks. This is the other truck that I have, and you can see the plate. See the plate right there? It runs up there. Now this one doesn't have any rust between it, but they're known for building rust, and what happens is the plate will start to split. So the plate on the truck we're putting the plate in is in really bad shape. See how bad it is? It's not even straight anymore. That's how much rust was building between them and bending it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten this piece out. I'm going to straighten it out. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to treat it with some rust paint, which will be our silver master coat paint. And we'll paint the bottom of this frame rail and the other side as well. And then we'll put our plate back up. That's a common problem. I'm not restoring this truck. I just want to keep it around for quite a few years because I use it so much. But like I said, I want to clean this snout up. I'm going to emery cloth that, make sure the bearing slides on there really good. And we're just going to take a biscuit tool to the flywheel, just kind of knock off some of the shiny spots on it. It doesn't look that hateful. It feels pretty good, so we're going to leave it be. Normally you would want to turn a flywheel when you're doing a clutch, but again, this truck does not see the highway. It just sees pretty much around the shop and the yard here. So see my nice dual exhaust I put on her a couple of years ago. It's nice and quiet. It's a simple dual exhaust. I put that on about 5 years ago, I believe. And I think we're going to have to do some floor repair here in the future. We got some really bad. I think we're actually going to fix the floor in this truck this winter. I actually have all the parts. Let me slide out of here. I actually had bought rockers and stuff for this truck probably 5 or 6 years ago. I don't know where they are from moving. I don't know what happened to them. They're somewhere around here. Probably still boxed up. But I never really wanted to. Originally, I was going to fix this truck, make it roadworthy years ago when I bought it. But I started using it as a yard truck, and it's way, way handy. And actually, I originally bought this truck. I had 2 jobs out on a farm for a guy, and we needed a way to pick up one piece of equipment so I could do some welding underneath the equipment, and the other piece of equipment we needed to take the motor out of. I had no way. Nobody had any way of getting the motor out. He had a backhoe, but he blew the motor up in the backhoe. So I knew about this truck and I bought it. So it paid for itself with those jobs. But after jobs were done, I was like, man, this is one handy tool. I'm keeping this thing for myself. So that's what ended up happening. So I've had the truck 6 or 7 years now, and the guy I bought it from, he owned a farm, and he had it probably for 7 or 8 years. So in all those years, it's never had a clutch. It's had a lot of people use it, so you know, it is what it is. Time to put a clutch in it. So look, I'm going to crawl underneath it, and I'll try to remember to bring you guys along, but once I get rolling, sometimes I forget. So let me get at it. So today's Sunday, and yesterday I had to fight this trans back in there because it rolled on the transmission jack, and unfortunately I didn't get any video because I thought I pushed the button, but I didn't, and when I got to fighting the trans, I totally messed up. So anyway, she's all back together. You can see all new bolts. I put all new bolts in this cross member. I took this plate off. You can see this is a separate plate that bolts to the frame. Like I said, all these 30 series Chevys are known for these extra plate. And this one was starting to get a bunch of rust jacketing where it was splitting apart. So I took it off, cleaned it up, painted it with this silver paint from Master Coat, which is 100% better than anything Port 15 could dream of. So this will stop it from rusting, and will stop it from rust jacketing. We're all back together, pumps on it, it's all back together. I did take, and let me spin you around, it'll be easier. So I made this fancy little bracket right here. And what that's going to do is keeps the linkage together. There's actually supposed to be a spring on here. It runs further up, a longer one, but I don't have anything, so I made this fancy little bracket. Put a couple extra holes in it so I could adjust it. You can see one of the holes right there. And I just utilized one of the holes that are here in the frame that's actually holding on this extra plate. As you can see, I cleaned the bell housing up, got everything nice and clean. Right now, the clutch is adjusted. I got to, see there's a grease fitting there. I'm going to grease the Z-bar, and I'm going to take it off these jack stands and clean this mess up that I made. And now she's finished. I just had it running, pumps back on it, everything works. So this job is done. You see, I put all new bolts in. I had to cut all these bolts out. They were just so rusted. So I went ahead and cut them out and just replaced every bolt in it. Now, something else I found while I was working on it, these bushings were trashed. So luckily, I had a good set of used ones, but there's a new dilemma. When I took the bushing out, the bolt is broke off in the body here, this body mount. So as you can see, it already needs a floor anyway. So I'll cut a hole in it, and I'll get the bolt out and bolt it down. Like I said before, this truck doesn't see any highway use, so we'll fix that. I'm going to actually fix the floor in it and put a rocker on it because you catch your leg on it all the time. We just use this truck around the shop, around the yard here, picking stuff up, moving stuff, and, you know, it's my workhorse. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to fix that because I found the passenger side one was just as bad, so I replaced it as well. Let me see if I can reach it here. Totally trashed. So both front body bushings were trashed. Luckily, like I said, I had a set of good used ones. What I do is, my buddy has a junkyard up north, and they cut the frames out of everything. They scrapped the frames separate from the bodies. So a couple years ago, I walked the yard and I picked up a whole milk crate of these style bushings with the bottoms and everything, because they were all laying on the ground. He zips them out with a gun, and they drop the frames out of everything. So there was a ton of these GM style, because they cut up a bunch of S10 Blazers and Trailblazers, which use this same style bushing that the C10 uses. So I grabbed a bunch of them and I saved them. So I had a whole milk crate full of them, and I was able to replace them. So I put 2 good used ones in the front of this cab, but like I said, both bolts are broke off, so I had to cut a hole in the floor to get down in there and get the, there's a square nut inside these cab bushings, and they just got a couple little sheet metal tabs that hold them in. So when the factory's running the bolt up in there, it doesn't spin. Get in there, cut a hole in there, get in there, take the tabs out, and you can pull that square nut out and put a new 1/2 inch or 7, I think it's 7/16 actually, bolt, drop it down in there and bolt her up. But we'll be fine because these both were rotten. So there was nothing holding them on anyway, so it'll be fine because it doesn't leave the yard. So that'll be a project down the road. But she's all together, nice and clean. Everything's good. I mean, this here's a little greasy. We cleaned the bell housing up. New clutch, pressure plate, throttle bearing, pilot bearing, all new in there. The clutch is super easy to push in, nice and soft. So we're good to go. We're back in business. So now, the next set of business with this truck will be, we'll repair those down the road, put some rockers in it, and that's pretty much it. Oh, I got to put a brake hose on the passenger side front, but we'll do that at a later date. But at least the workhorse is back up and running and all taken care of. So we can get on to the next thing, get on to one of these other toilets. But we needed this toilet in order to work on the other toilets. Like I said, long day yesterday. Today's Sunday. I'm just wrapping up, just finishing putting up all this stuff, but we're all done now. So now I'm going to clean this mess up that I made, which is a huge mess, and move some stuff around and call it a day. So holler at your boy. Catch me on the next one because I'm whooped.